The wind cut through the cold night of June 1954, carrying the scent of wet earth and the coffee that was still burning on the wood stove in the main house. Colonel Anthony Vance adjusted his leather hat and pulled his coat tighter over his broad shoulders before stepping out for the night's final rounds. At 47, a widower for 5 years, the man carried a hardness in his dark eyes. It was the look of someone who had learned not to trust a soul. Willow Creek Farm, near Fairview, Georgia, was all he had left. 300 acres of crops, dairy cattle, and a loneliness that weighed heavier than any sack of grain. He was walking across the dirt yard when he heard it. A dry sound. Wood creaking. It came from the main gate, the heavy wooden one, about 200 yards from the house. Anthony frowned. At this hour, past 10 at night, no one had any business knocking on a farm gate. Bandits didn't knock, they jumped fences. Visitors called during the day. Instinctively, his hand went to the .38 caliber revolver he always carried on his belt. His steps were firm on the damp earth. The full moon illuminated the path between the barbed wire fences, and in the distance, he could see a silhouette. Someone was clinging to the planks of the gate. Anthony picked up the pace, his hand on the gun's grip. When he got closer, he stopped. His heart, which for years had beaten with the regularity of a broken clock, raced. It was a girl, a young woman with disheveled black hair, skin pale almost to transparency under the moonlight, wearing a blue floral dress torn at the hem and shoulders. Her feet were bare and bleeding. Fresh blood stained the dirt beneath her toes, and her eyes, God in heaven, those wide green eyes, filled with a terror Anthony had only seen once in his life, in the gaze of his own wife before she died. The girl didn't speak. She didn't ask for help. She didn't cry. She just held onto the gate planks with 2 trembling hands, as if she would collapse if she let go. Her breathing was short, rapid, desperate. And that was when Anthony saw it. Purple marks around her neck. Finger marks. Someone had tried to strangle her. "Who are you?" His voice came out harsher than he intended. "What happened?" Silence. The girl just looked at him. And in that look, there was so much. Fear, pleading, shame, exhaustion. That Anthony felt something turn inside his chest. Something he hadn't felt in a long time. "You're hurt." He softened his tone, holstered his gun. "Are you hungry?" Nothing. Only that deafening silence. Anthony looked around. The dirt road that cut through the farm was empty. Not a sign of a buggy, a horse, or a person. Where had this girl come from? And who was she running from? "Listen to me." He took another step. The girl recoiled, but didn't let go of the gate. "I'm not going to hurt you, but you can't stay there. Either come in or keep moving. Choose." Her green eyes filled with tears that didn't fall. And then, slowly, like someone making the hardest choice of their life, she let go of the gate planks. Her legs trembled. And before Anthony could react, the girl collapsed onto the dirt ground, fainting. The farmer cursed under his breath. He looked around one more time. No one. He bent down, scooped the girl up in his arms. She was light, too light, skin and bones. She must not have eaten for days. Her dress smelled of sweat, earth, and something else. Smoke. Wood smoke. Anthony frowned, but this wasn't the time for questions. He crossed the gate with the girl in his arms and walked back to the main house. The interior of the house was dark. Only the lantern in the kitchen still lit. He carried her to the guest room, the one no one had used since his sister had come from the city years ago. He placed the girl on the double bed, covered her with a wool blanket. He looked at her in the dim light. She must have been 19, 20 years old. Beautiful, despite the dirt and the bruises. But it was the expression on her face, even unconscious, that moved him. A pain so deep that not even fainting could erase it. Anthony left the room, went to the kitchen, got a basin of water, clean cloths, and the bottle of iodine he kept in the cabinet. He returned, sat on the edge of the bed, and began to clean her feet. The water turned red quickly. Injuries of someone who had walked miles barefoot, over gravel roads and through brush. Some nails were torn. He cleaned every wound with care, applied iodine, bandaged them with strips of cloth. His hands, used to roping cattle and fixing fences, trembled a little with that delicate care. Then he went to the pump in the yard, filled a glass with fresh water, and returned. The girl was still unconscious. He wet her lips with water. Nothing. He waited and waited, until, around midnight, she opened her eyes. The fright in her eyes was immediate. She tried to get up, but her body didn't obey. Anthony raised his hands, a gesture of peace. Easy. You're at Willow Creek Farm. I'm Anthony Vance, the owner. You fainted at the gate. I brought you inside, cleaned your wounds. That's all. The girl stared at him. Those green eyes sparked with distrust. She looked around, saw the simple room, the window with lace curtains, the cross on the wall. She looked back at him. "What is your name?" Anthony asked. Silence. "Where did you come from?" More silence. "Someone hurt you. Those marks on your neck. Who did that?" Nothing. The girl just pulled the blanket up to her chin, as if she wanted to disappear inside it. And there, in that obstinate silence, Anthony understood. She wasn't going to talk. She couldn't, or she didn't want to, but the result was the same. There was a mute stranger inside his house, hurt and terrified, and he had no idea what to do with that. "All right," he stood up. "Stay there. Tomorrow we'll figure it out." He was leaving when he stopped at the door. "There's food in the kitchen. Help yourself if you want." He closed the door, stood in the hallway, hands still on the doorknob. What the hell had he just done? Bring a stranger into his house? A girl clearly running from something, or someone. He should have left her at the gate. He should have called the sheriff in town. He should have done anything but what he did. But when he went to sleep hours later, the image that haunted him wasn't the danger he might have brought into the farm. It was the absolute terror in those green eyes. And without knowing why, Anthony Vance felt his life had just changed forever. The rooster crowed at 5 in the morning, as always. Anthony got up, put on denim trousers and a cotton shirt, pulled on his leather boots. Another day was starting. Coffee, milking, checking the fences. The routine that kept him alive, even when living didn't seem to make sense anymore. But today was different. The girl. He went to the kitchen, lit the wood stove, put water on for coffee. The smell of burning wood and coffee grounds spread through the house. He got bread from the tin, butter, cured cheese, set everything on the large wooden table, and waited. Half an hour passed. Nothing. Anthony went to the guest room door, knocked lightly. Silence. Opened it slowly. The bed was empty, the blanket thrown aside. His heart raced. Had she run away? But no. The girl was huddled in the corner of the room, between the wardrobe and the wall, hugging her knees. Her eyes, wide, followed his every move. "Coffee's on the table," Anthony said, keeping his distance. "You need to eat." She didn't move. He sighed, left, leaving the door ajar. He went back to the kitchen, poured himself strong black coffee, ate bread and cheese. Minutes passed. He was finishing when he heard it. Light, hesitant footsteps. The girl appeared in the kitchen doorway. In the daylight, she looked even more fragile. The torn blue dress revealed bruises on her arms, superficial cuts on her legs. Her long black hair fell disheveled over her shoulders. But it was her face that drew attention. Delicate features, pale skin, cracked lips, and those green eyes that seemed to see more than they should. "Sit," Anthony pointed to the chair. She stood still. "I already ate." "That food is for you." Slowly, like a cornered animal, the girl entered the kitchen, sat on the edge of the chair, far from him, looked at the bread, the cheese, the coffee. Her hands trembled. She took the bread, brought it to her mouth, took a bite, chewed slowly, and then, as if a dam had broken, she began to eat desperately. Bread, cheese, hot coffee that she gulped down despite the heat. Anthony realized she was starving. Days without eating, maybe weeks. "Take it easy. Take it easy, Anthony Cohen, or you'll get sick," he said. She paused, looked at him, went back to eating, slower this time. When she finished, she wiped her mouth with the back of her hand, lowered her eyes, sat there, quiet, waiting. Waiting for what? For him to kick her out? To demand something in return? "Listen." Anthony crossed his arms. "I don't know who you are. I don't know where you came from or what happened. But you're hurt and obviously running from someone. I won't turn you in. But I can't keep you here knowing nothing." Silence. That damn silence. "You don't talk?" he insisted. "Can't talk or won't talk?" Her green eyes filled with tears. She pressed her lips together, raised a trembling hand, and pointed to her own throat, and then shook her head, slowly, like someone carrying an immense weight. Anthony understood. She couldn't speak. Whatever had happened, the strangulation, the trauma, something else, had stolen her voice. "All right," he agreed. "You don't need to talk, but I need a name, something to call you." The girl hesitated. Then, with her finger, she drew on the wooden table, in the fine dust that always accumulated. 6 letters. A-U-D-R-E-Y. Stopped, looked at him, as if asking if it was enough. "Audrey?" Anthony tried. She nodded. "Audrey. Okay. You can stay, for now." And for now meant until he figured out what to do. Until the whole town found out. Until someone came looking for her. Until whatever was going to happen, happened. But in that moment, sitting in the kitchen with a mute stranger, Anthony Vance didn't imagine that "for now" would turn into the most important decision of his life. The following days were strange. Audrey didn't leave the room. Anthony left food at the door 3 times a day. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. She ate everything, but never when he was around. Her dirty clothes, he took at night, washed in the tub, hung on the line. Left clean clothes of his late wife on the bed. A cotton dress, a slip, a shawl. The next day, the clothes were gone, and Audrey appeared wearing the outfit, clean, hair tied in a simple bun. Anthony tried to keep the routine. Wake up early, coffee, work in the fields. But his mind was elsewhere. Who was this girl? Why would someone try to kill her? And why the hell did he care so much? It was on the 3rd day that everything changed. He was at the corral, fixing the wooden fence the cattle had knocked down, when he heard the sound of buggies. 3. He turned and saw the entourage coming down the dirt road. In front, on a black horse, came Ray Turner, the owner of the neighboring farm. A man in his 60s, big belly, gray mustache, and a reputation for being nosy. Behind him, 2 buggies with hired hands. "Anthony," Ray waved, feigning cordiality. "We need to talk." Anthony dropped the hammer. Wiped his hands on his pants. "Ray, what an honor." "Cut the crap, son." The man got off the horse with difficulty. "I came here because the whole town is talking. Talking about what? About the girl. Ray spat on the ground. A woman showed up here at your farm, didn't she? Last night, they say. Wounded, running. Everybody knows. Anthony felt his blood run cold. How did anyone know? He hadn't told a soul. The farm was isolated. The hands lived far away. But then he remembered. Joe, the milker, had come to work yesterday morning. He must have seen something, seen and spread it. So what if she did? Anthony crossed his arms. My house. I welcome who I want. Anthony, for God's sake. Ray lowered his voice, stepped closer. That girl you're harboring, she's wanted. Anthony's heart raced, but he kept his face grim. Wanted for what? Murder. Ray said the words slowly, savoring the impact. She killed her boss, Dr. Sebastian Ford, over in Oakville. Great man, respected doctor. Found him in his own house 3 days ago, stabbed. And his maid, a certain Audrey Miller, vanished. The police are looking for her. And now they tell me she's here, on your farm? Anthony felt the world spin. Audrey. Murder. It couldn't be true. The terrified girl he took in was a killer? Are you sure about this? He asked, voice tense. The sheriff from Oakville passed through yesterday, putting up posters. I got one right here. Ray pulled a folded paper from his pocket, showed it. It was a simple printed poster with a description. Wanted. Audrey Miller, 19 years old, black hair, green eyes, pale skin. Suspected of homicide. Reward. Anthony took the paper, read it. The name matched. The description matched. But it didn't make sense. The girl he had in his house didn't look capable of killing a fly, let alone a grown man. And what did you come here to tell me? Anthony handed back the poster. I came to give you some advice, son. Ray put a hand on his shoulder, a gesture Anthony hated. Turn her in, call the sheriff, hand over the girl, and wash your hands of it. Otherwise, you're gonna get burned too. Harboring a criminal is a crime. And worse, the whole town is already talking. They say you're hiding a killer, that you're involved with her. Understand where this leads. Anthony understood. In a small rural town, reputation was everything, and his was already stained, a lonely widower, reclusive, ill-tempered. Now, harboring a supposed murderess? It would be the end. No one would do business with him. No one would respect him. And worse, the police would come. I'll think about it, Anthony said, dryly. Think fast. Ray mounted his horse. Because the sheriff is coming here tomorrow. And if he finds the girl here, you're going to jail too. The entourage left, leaving a cloud of dust and a heavy silence. Anthony stood in the middle of the corral, the crumpled poster in his hand, his head exploding with doubts. Audrey. Murderer. It couldn't be. But what if it was? He stormed into the house, went straight to her room, knocked on the door, didn't wait for an answer, entered. Audrey was sitting on the bed, sewing her torn dress with thread and needle she must have found in the room. When she saw him, she stood up, startled. Is it true? Anthony threw the poster on the bed. Did you kill a man? She looked at the paper. Her face went white, white as lime. Her hands began to shake. She shook her head, frantically. No, no, no. Then why are you running? He stepped closer. Why do you have those marks? Why don't you speak? Audrey put her hands to her face, began to cry, crying in silence, shoulders shaking. And in that crying, Anthony saw the truth. She wasn't a killer. She was a victim, and someone was hunting her. He took a deep breath. All right, I believe you. She lifted her face, tears streaming down, looked at him with a gratitude so deep it hurt. But the police are coming tomorrow, Anthony continued. And if they find you here, I won't be able to do anything. Do you understand? Audrey understood. She knew. She always knew this moment would come. She grabbed the shawl, started putting on the old boots he had given her. She was leaving, going back to the road, running again, until someone caught her or she died of hunger and cold. Wait! Anthony grabbed her arm. I didn't say you have to go. I said you can't stay here. She looked at him, confused. There's a place, he explained, at the back of the farm, an old cabin my father built when I was a child. No one goes there. It's isolated, hidden in the middle of the woods. You stay there. I'll bring food. They'll come, search the main house, find nothing, and leave. Understand? Audrey hesitated. Why was he doing this? Why risk so much for a stranger? I don't know why, Anthony answered the question she didn't ask. But I know you didn't kill anyone. I know you're in danger. And He stopped. He couldn't explain it, even to himself. I won't turn you in. And there, in that simple room, between a mute girl running from injustice and a farmer hardened by loneliness, something was born. Not love, not yet, but trust. And sometimes, trust is the first step to the impossible. That night, Anthony took Audrey to the old cabin. It was small, 2 rooms, wooden walls, a roof that leaked in a few spots. But it had a bed, it had lanterns, it had a place to hide. He left food, water, blankets. I'll be back tomorrow, he said before leaving. Don't leave here. Don't light the lantern at night. And, he paused, trust me. Audrey looked at him, and for the first time since she appeared at the gate, she sketched something that could be a smile. Small, trembling, but a smile. Anthony went back to the main house with his heart racing, hiding a fugitive, lying to the police, risking everything. For what? For a girl who couldn't even speak. For a stranger who appeared out of nowhere. But when he lay down that night, the last thing he saw before falling asleep was the image of Audrey's green eyes. And in them, for the first time, he saw something beyond fear. He saw hope. And hope was something Anthony Vance hadn't felt in a long, long time. The next day, as Ray had warned, the police arrived. 2 deputies and the sheriff from Oakville. A tall man, waxed black mustache, impeccable uniform. A look of someone who tolerates no disobedience. Anthony met them in the yard, fresh coffee on the table, acting like someone with nothing to hide. Sheriff, Anthony greeted. Can I help you with something? Anthony Vance? The sheriff didn't waste time. We are looking for a fugitive. Audrey Miller. Reports say she was seen around your farm. Seen by whom? That doesn't matter. Is the girl here? No. The sheriff stared at him. Are you sure? I am. Then you won't mind if we search the property. It wasn't a request. It was an order. Anthony nodded. Make yourself at home. And they searched. Main house, bedrooms, kitchen, pantry, barn, shed, workers' quarters. They turned everything upside down. Anthony watched, impassive. 2 hours later, the deputies returned empty-handed. Nothing, Sheriff, one deputy informed. The sheriff didn't seem satisfied. Mr. Vance, harboring a fugitive is a serious crime. I know. That's why I'm not hiding anyone. Before leaving, the sheriff turned. If the girl shows up around here, you are required by law to inform the authorities. Understood? Understood perfectly. And they left. Anthony stood in the yard, watching the dust from the road settle in the distance. His heart hammered. They had believed him. For now. That night, he went back to the old cabin in the woods. Audrey was huddled in a corner, hugging her knees, terror stamped on her face. She had heard the horses, the shouts of the deputies. Must have thought she would be caught. They're gone, Anthony said, entering. They didn't find you. The relief on her face was immediate. She took a deep breath, like someone coming back to life. But they'll be back, he continued. And next time, they'll search better. So you need to tell me the truth. What happened? Why do they accuse you of murder? Audrey lowered her eyes, then, slowly, picked up a stick from the floor. In the loose dirt near the cold fireplace, she began to draw. A man, a house, and then a dagger. Anthony watched. "Dr. Ford, you worked for him." She nodded. "And he was killed." Nodded again. "But you didn't kill him." She denied vehemently. "Then who did?" Audrey paused, looked at him, and with the stick, she drew something that made Anthony's blood run cold. She drew 3 men around the doctor, and above them a letter, C. C. Anthony knew that symbol. Everyone in the county knew. C for colonel, not the police colonel, but the local colonels, the rich landowners, the powerful men who ruled and overruled, who bought the law, who did what they wanted, and no one interfered. The colonels killed the doctor. Anthony understood and pinned it on you. Audrey nodded, tears streaming down. Why? Why kill a doctor? She pointed to her own head, then to her heart, and then drew in the dirt a sheet of paper, a book, documents. He knew something, Anthony completed. Something they didn't want anyone to know. And then, Audrey did something she hadn't done since she arrived. She put her hand in her dress pocket, where there was a small inner pocket, and pulled something out. A silver locket. Old, dented. She opened it. Inside, there was a faded photo. A young man, handsome, in uniform. And under the photo, folded many times, a piece of yellowed paper. She handed the locket to Anthony. He unfolded the paper carefully. It was a letter. Handwritten, faded ink, shaky handwriting. And as he read, his world crumbled and rebuilt itself at the same time. Because that letter contained a secret that explained everything. The doctor's death, Audrey's flight, her silence. And a secret that, if revealed, would destroy the lives of powerful men. Men who would stop at nothing to ensure that truth remained buried, along with anyone who knew it. And now, Anthony Vance knew it too. Anthony read the letter 3 times before he could process what was written. His hands were trembling. The handwriting was a man's, someone writing with difficulty, perhaps wounded, perhaps in a hurry. The date at the top, March 15th, 1952. 2 years ago, my dear daughter Audrey. If you are reading this, it is because I am no longer in this world. Forgive this father who could never claim you, who could never give you the name that was yours by right. But know that I loved you from the day I learned of your existence. The locket I carry on my chest holds your picture as a girl. Keep the truth now. I was Major August Miller of the 5th Battalion. I was killed on the orders of Colonel Evan Travis and his cronies for discovering the theft of indigenous lands they had been practicing. I have proof. Documents. They are hidden with the only man I trusted, Dr. Sebastian Ford, physician in Oakville. If anything happens to me, find him. He will know what to do. I love you, my daughter, and I regret not being the father you deserved. Your father, August. Anthony looked up at Audrey. She was crying silently, hugging her knees. Now it all made sense. She wasn't just a common maid. She was the illegitimate daughter of a murdered military hero. And Dr. Ford, the man she supposedly killed, was actually the one protecting her, the one guarding the evidence that could destroy the most powerful colonels in the region. They killed your father, Anthony said, voice hoarse. And when you went to find the doctor, they killed him too, and pinned it on you. Audrey nodded, sobbing. Her throat tightened as if she wanted to scream, but no sound came out. Only that torturous silence that had accompanied her since the night she found Dr. Ford's body on the floor of his library, bloody dead. And when she screamed in terror, pain, despair, hands grabbed her from behind, strong fingers around her neck, squeezing until the world went dark and her voice was extinguished forever. When she woke up, she was in the basement of the house, and she heard voices upstairs. Voices planning how they would make it look like she, the orphan maid with no family, had killed her employer. No one would doubt it. No one would defend her. It was perfect. But Audrey managed to escape. A broken window, the dark night, running until her feet bled. 3 days running, until she appeared at the gate of Willow Creek Farm. Colonel Evan Travis. Anthony repeated the name with disgust. He knew the man. Everyone knew him. Owner of half the land between Fairview and Oakville. Influential politician, a man feared and respected, and now a murderer. The evidence. Anthony held the locket. Your father said he left evidence with the doctor. Did they get it? Audrey shook her head, and then with her finger, she wrote in the dirt. Wall, library, behind, Virgin. Behind a picture of the Virgin Mary? Anthony tried to decipher. She confirmed. Her green eyes pleaded. He needed to understand. The proof was still there. Hidden in the wall of the doctor's library, behind the painting of the Virgin Mary. The killers didn't know. They had ransacked the house, but didn't find it. And if someone could get there, get the documents, take them to the right authorities, it's suicide. Anthony shook his head. The house must be watched. And even if I managed to get in, get the proof, who would believe me? The colonels own the police, the judges, everyone. It would be my word against theirs. Audrey lowered her head, defeated. She knew. She always knew. There was no justice for people like her. There was no hope. But Anthony couldn't accept that. Not after reading that letter. Not after seeing her suffering. Not after understanding that Audrey wasn't just a fugitive. She was a daughter seeking justice for her murdered father. And something inside him, something that had been dead for 5 years since he buried his wife, woke up. Anger, indignation, and a deep desire to do what was right, even if it cost everything. I'll think of something, he said, putting the locket in his pocket. But you can't stay here forever. It's dangerous, for you and for me. Audrey wrote in the dirt, I'll go. Where? Anthony crossed his arms. They're looking for you in the whole region. You have no money, no papers, nowhere to go, and you don't speak. How will you survive? She had no answer, because he was right. She was cornered, and alone. She wouldn't last a week. Stay, Anthony decided. A few more days, until I figure out what to do. But don't leave here, don't light a fire during the day. And if you hear any strange noise, hide in the woods. Before leaving that night, Anthony looked at her one last time. Audrey was standing near the small window, moonlight illuminating her pale face. She looked so fragile, so lost. And yet, there was a strength in her. A silent but unshakable strength. The strength of someone who lost everything and was still standing. Your father would be proud of you, Anthony said. And he left before she could see the emotion in his eyes. The following days were the hardest of Anthony's life. In the morning, he feigned normality, worked in the fields, talked to the hands, went to town to buy supplies. But at night, when everyone slept, he took food, water, sometimes a book or newspaper, and went to the old cabin, and he stayed. Half an hour, sitting on the dirt floor, talking to Audrey, or rather, speaking while she drew answers in the dirt or made gestures. That was how he discovered her story. Daughter of a poor seamstress in Oakville, raised without knowing her father. Her mother died when she was 15. She went to work as a maid in family homes. Until one day, 3 years ago, A stranger knocked on the door of the house where she worked, handed her an envelope. Inside, the letter from her father and the locket. And Audrey discovered she wasn't fatherless. She was the bastard daughter of a dead hero. "Why did you go looking for the doctor?" Anthony asked one of those nights. Audrey drew. "Justice. For my father." "You knew it was dangerous," she confirmed. "But she went anyway. Because justice was worth the risk. And Dr. Ford had been kind, said he would help, that he would hand the proof to someone from outside, someone the colonels couldn't buy. He was planning, but they found out, and killed him first. And your voice?" Anthony touched the subject he avoided. "Was it when they tried to kill you?" Audrey touched her own neck. The bruises were already fading, but the memory remained. She made the gesture of squeezing, suffocating, and then pointed to her throat, shook her head. Since that night, nothing, not a whisper. The fear, the trauma, the shock, something inside her had broken. Her voice was gone, and she didn't know if it would come back. Anthony felt an ache in his chest. "It will come back," he stated, more to himself than to her. "When you are safe, when all this passes, the voice comes back." Audrey gave a sad half-smile. She didn't believe it, but she liked that he believed. And it was in these silent conversations, in this strange exchange of words and gestures, that something began to grow between them. It wasn't love, not yet, but it was connection. Two lonely souls, two survivors, two broken hearts that by some miracle started beating to the same rhythm. One night, Anthony brought a surprise, a wooden box. Inside, paper, pencils, old notebooks. "For you to write," he explained. "Since you can't speak." Her eyes shone. She took a notebook, opened it, took the pencil, and wrote in beautiful, firm handwriting, "Thank you for everything, for believing." Anthony read it and felt something turn inside him. "I don't just believe in you," he said, voice low. "I believe the truth will come out, somehow." She wrote, "Why are you helping me? You don't know me." "Good question. Why?" Anthony took a deep breath. "Because 5 years ago, I lost my wife. Fever. She died in my arms, asking me not to give up on life. But I did give up. I stopped living. I just existed. And then you appeared, and He stopped. How to explain? "I saw it in you. I saw the same strength, the same fight, and I felt that if I abandoned you, I would be abandoning her all over again. Understand?" Audrey wrote, "I understand. I'm so sorry about your wife." "Her name was Helen," Anthony said. It was the first time in 5 years he spoke her name aloud. She was a teacher. Taught the kids in the county. Everyone loved her. She was light. And when she left, the light went with her. "The light returns," Audrey wrote, and showed him, pointing at him. "It is returning." Anthony looked at the words and realized she was right. In those 2 weeks with Audrey, he had felt something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose, the will to wake up, the will to fight. The light was coming back, slowly, flickering, but coming back. "Thank you," he said simply. But the peace didn't last. On the 10th day, everything fell apart. Anthony was in the field when he saw the movement. Riders, many of them, coming down the main road. Not deputies, hired guns, armed men in the service of the colonels. And in front of them, mounted on an imposing white horse, came a man Anthony recognized immediately, Colonel Evan Travis. His blood ran cold. Evan never came personally, never. If he was here, it was because he knew. He knew Audrey was hiding on the farm, and he was coming to get her. Anthony ran, Not to the main house, to the old cabin. He had to warn Audrey, had to get her out of there, now. But when he arrived breathless, he found the door kicked in, the house ransacked, and Audrey wasn't there. His heart stopped. No. Looking around desperately, signs of struggle, one of her boots on the floor, the notebook he had given her, torn pages scattered, blood, a few drops on the threshold. Looking for something, Vance? The voice came from behind him. Anthony turned. Colonel Evan Travis was there, 10 yards away, revolver in hand, a malicious smile on his face. Behind him, 6 armed thugs. "Where is she?" Anthony asked, voice a growl. "The vagrant murderer? She's where she should have been from the start. In the hands of justice." Evan took a step forward. "My men found her an hour ago. Now she's on her way to the Oakville jail, where she'll be tried and hanged for the murder of Dr. Ford. She didn't kill anyone. You know that. You killed him." Evan's smile vanished. "Careful with your words, Vance. Baseless accusations can cost you dearly. I know the truth." Anthony took a step forward, ignoring the guns pointed at him. "I know about Major August. I know about the stolen lands. I know everything." Evan went pale, then red, with rage. "Impossible. The evidence was destroyed." "You think," Anthony lied. He didn't know if the proof still existed, but he needed to buy time. "What if I say I have copies, that I already sent them to authorities in Atlanta?" It was a lie, but it worked. Evan hesitated, and in that hesitation, Anthony saw his opening. He had to get to Oakville. He had to find Audrey. He had to get the evidence, if it was still there. He had to do something. "You have nothing," Evan decided. "You're bluffing." But just in case, he made a gesture. 2 thugs advanced. Anthony didn't think, he just reacted. Punched the first one in the face, dodged the second, ran. Shots exploded behind him. A bullet grazed his ear. He ran through the cotton field, jumping between the rows, using the plants as cover. More shots, shouts, horses neighing. He knew the farm better than anyone, knew every shortcut, every hiding place. Ran to the creek, threw himself in the water. Let the current carry him a few yards, came out on the other side, ran more, until the sounds of the pursuers faded into the distance. He stopped, panting, hidden in a bamboo grove, his heart hammered, his hands shook. Audrey had been taken, and he couldn't do anything. He had no proof, no witnesses, nothing, except one thing, the locket, still in his pocket, and the certainty that he wouldn't give up. Not now, not after everything. He waited for nightfall. Then, moving like a shadow, he went back to the main house. The property was watched, but he knew secret passages, access through the back. Entered silently, took hidden cash, clothes, a machete, a revolver, and most importantly, the deed to the farm and personal documents. Because Anthony Vance had just made the most insane decision of his life. He was going to Oakville. He was going to break into the late Dr. Ford's house. He was going to get the proof. And he was going to save Audrey, even if it meant facing the most powerful men in the South. Even if it meant losing everything. Because for the first time in 5 years, he had something to fight for. Someone to fight for. And the light Helen had asked him not to let go out, it was lit again, burning strong. And nothing, not colonels, not corrupt police, not hell itself, was going to put that light out. Anthony saddled the fastest horse on the farm, a chestnut named Thunder, and left in the dead of night. The full moon illuminated the dirt road, and the chill of the early morning cut his face. Oakville was a 3-hour hard ride. He had to arrive before dawn. As he galloped, His mind raced. How would he get into the house? How would he get past the guards that would certainly be watching? How would he find the evidence in the library, in the dark, without getting caught? It was madness, suicide. But there was no alternative. Because in the Oakville cell, at that exact moment, Audrey Miller was alone, in silence, waiting for an unjust death for a crime she didn't commit. And Anthony wasn't going to let that happen. The road stretched ahead, dust rising under thunder's hooves. And somewhere in that darkness, between fear and determination, Anthony Vance understood a simple truth. Sometimes, the only way to save someone is to risk everything. Absolutely everything. And he was ready for it. Because Audrey wasn't just a stranger who appeared at his gate anymore. She was hope. She was purpose. She was the second chance he never imagined having. And he wasn't going to waste it. The horse galloped. The night swallowed the miles. And up ahead, in the town of Oakville, destiny awaited. A confrontation that would change everything. A truth that needed to be revealed. And justice that, however late, needed to be done. No matter the price. Anthony arrived in Oakville when the sky was still black, dotted with cold stars. The town slept. Only a few stray dogs wandering the cobblestone streets. He tied Thunder in a dark alley behind the main church, away from curious eyes, and continued on foot. The late Dr. Ford's house was on the main street, a two-story building, with a yellow facade and bars on the windows. Anthony watched from the shadows. As Audrey had predicted, there was security. Two men sitting on the front step, rifles resting on their legs, talking quietly. Evans hired guns, no doubt. Couldn't go in through the front. Anthony circled the block silently, looking for an alternative. In the back of the house, he found it. A low wall, a broken window on the second floor. The same one Audrey must have escaped from. The rotten wood of the window frame swayed in the wind. He waited, patient, watching. The guards weren't watching the back. Why would they? The girl had already been caught. The proof they fought was destroyed. They were careless. And their carelessness was Anthony's chance. When the early morning was at its darkest, that hour between night and day, when even watchmen doze off, Anthony acted. Scaled the wall, grabbed the rough brick, pulled himself up to the broken window. The remaining glass scratched his hands. He entered, careful, making as little noise as possible. Landed in a dark room, smelled of mold and abandonment. Waited for his eyes to adjust to the darkness. Shapes began to emerge. An unmade bed, an open wardrobe, clothes scattered. They had ransacked everything. Searched desperately for something they didn't find. Anthony crossed the room on tiptoe, opened the door slowly. A hallway, stairs to the right. The library Audrey had drawn was on the ground floor. He went down step by step, every creak of the old wood sounding like a gunshot in the stillness of the house. On the ground floor, he found the library. The door was wide open. Inside, the devastation was complete. Books thrown on the floor, shelves toppled, paintings ripped from the walls. They had searched and found nothing. Because they didn't know exactly where to look. But Anthony knew. Behind the Virgin, Audrey had written. He swept the library with his eyes, searching, and there it was, a large painting of Our Lady of Sorrows, still hanging on the wall, untouched amidst the destruction. Too obvious to be obvious. He approached, took down the painting carefully. Behind it, the plaster wall. He felt around, searching, and then he felt it, an area that sounded hollow. Took the machete from his belt, started digging. The plaster gave way easily, revealing a hole, and inside it, a leather envelope protected, intact. Anthony's heart raced. Took the envelope, opened it. Documents, maps, fake deeds, bribery receipts, and a letter signed by Evan Travis himself, ordering the death of Major August Miller. It was all there. Every crime, every theft, every murder. Enough proof to take down not just Evan, but a dozen other corrupt colonels. "I thought you would come." Anthony froze. The voice came from the door. He turned slowly, and there was Colonel Evan Travis, revolver pointed at his chest, cold smile on his lips. Impressive. Evan entered, followed by 4 armed thugs. "You really found the proof. We searched for days, but you came here, in the middle of the night, and found it in minutes." Anthony pressed the envelope against his chest. "It ends here, Evan. These documents are going to the authorities. You're going to pay." "Am I?" Evan laughed. "And which authorities? The sheriff who's in my pocket? The judge who dines at my table every Sunday? The governor who owes his election to the votes I control?" He took a step forward. "You're a fool, Vance. There is no justice here. There is power, and I have all the power. Not for long." Anthony backed away, eyes searching for an exit. But he was surrounded. "Give me the papers." Evan extended his hand. "And maybe I'll let you live. Leave town, start a new life far from here. How about that?" "And the girl? The murderer? She'll be hanged tomorrow at noon. Sentence has already been passed. Judge signed it yesterday. All legal, all by the book." His smile widened. "She's going to die, Vance. There's nothing you can do." Something inside Anthony exploded. Anger, pain, despair. He hadn't come all this way, risked everything, to let Audrey die. No way. In a quick movement, he grabbed the kerosene lamp that was on the table, threw it against the bookshelves. The glass shattered. Fire spread instantly. The old, dry books caught fire like straw. Evan shouted. The thugs recoiled from the sudden heat. Anthony took the chance, ran to the window, jumped, glass tearing his shirt, his arm, landed in the garden, rolled, got up. Shots exploded behind him. A bullet hit his leg, searing pain shooting up. He stumbled, but didn't stop. Ran limping, the envelope clutched to his chest, blood dripping. Shouts. More shots. The house was starting to burn, flames licking the windows. Anthony ran through the empty streets of Oakville, leaving a trail of blood. He knew he wouldn't last long. His leg burned, his vision blurred. But he had to make it, had to find someone who wasn't on Evan's payroll. And then he remembered. Father Michael, the vicar of the main church, an old man known for his righteousness. He wouldn't be bought, couldn't be bought. He was a man of God. Anthony stumbled to the church, climbed the stone steps leaving red stains, banged on the big wooden door, banged again and again. Heard footsteps inside. The door opened a crack. "Who is it?" The priest's hoarse voice. "Help," Anthony gasped. "Father, I need help." The door opened completely. Father Michael, about 70, white hair, black cassock, kind eyes, widened his eyes upon seeing Anthony's state. Bloody, dirty, holding an envelope as if it were the most precious thing in the world. "My God, son." The priest pulled him inside. "What happened?" "No time." Anthony held out the envelope. "This here is proof. Proof that the colonels murdered an honest man and are about to hang an innocent woman. Father, you need to take this out of town, to Atlanta, to someone they can't buy. Easy, son." The priest led him to a pew, tried to examine his leg. "You need a doctor." "No," Anthony grabbed him. "Listen, Audrey Miller, she's going to be hanged today at noon. She didn't kill anyone. It was Evan Travis. It's all here in these proofs. Everything. Outside, shouts, horses. They were coming. They're hunting me. Anthony pushed the envelope into the priest's hands. If I die, do you promise you'll deliver this? That you'll get justice for her. The priest looked at the envelope, then at Anthony, and in those old, tired eyes, he saw the truth. Saw that this man, bloody and desperate, was telling the truth. I promise, Father Michael said. By God, I promise. The church door exploded open. Thugs invaded, guns drawn. But the priest had already hidden the envelope inside his cassock. They grabbed Anthony, threw him to the ground. Kicks, pistol whips, pain exploding all over his body. Where are the papers? Evan entered, panting. His house was burning. He had lost everything. Where? Gone. Anthony spat blood, smiling. Already far from here, out of your reach. Evan kicked him in the face. You're going to die for this. Maybe, Anthony coughed, but you're going to fall. And Audrey, she's going to live. She's going to be free. And everyone will know the truth. Take him, Evan ordered. Throw him in the cell with the murderer. I want both hanged together. It will be an example. And Anthony was dragged bleeding out of the church. The last thing he saw was Father Michael standing at the altar, hand over the cassock where the papers were hidden. And in the old priest's eyes, a determination Anthony didn't expect to see. Maybe, just maybe, there was still hope. The cell was small, damp, smelled of mold and urine. They threw Anthony inside like a sack of potatoes. He fell heavy on the stone floor. Pain exploding in every part of his body. The iron door closed with a bang. Anthony? The voice was low, hoarse, almost inaudible. But it was a voice he never expected to hear. He lifted his head, blinking to focus his blurred vision. And there, in the corner of the cell, huddled against the wall, was Audrey. Dirty, bruised, dress torn, but alive. And looking at him with those wide green eyes in shock. Audrey, he tried to get up, couldn't. His body didn't respond anymore. She came to him, knelt down, touched his face with trembling hands. Tears streamed down her face. Anthony, she repeated. It was little more than a whisper. Voice broken, weak. But it was a voice. You came back. Came back. He smiled, despite the pain. Your voice came back. When I heard you had come, that you were fighting for me. The words came out with effort, as if every syllable hurt. Something broke inside me. And the words came back. Got the proof. He coughed, blood staining his lips. Gave it to the priest. He's going to take it far away, get justice. Audrey cried more. You sacrificed everything. For me. Why? Because. Anthony took a deep breath. Every inhalation, agony. Because you made me remember what it is to be alive. Because you are the light that returned. She hugged him. And there, in that fetid cell, condemned to death, two lonely souls clung to each other as if they were the last real thing in the world. Because maybe they were. The hours passed. Morning came. Gray light entering through the barred window high in the cell. And then, footsteps. The door opened. The jailer, accompanied by two deputies. Time's up, he announced. Noon. Let's go. Audrey squeezed Anthony's hand. Together, she whispered. Together, he confirmed. They were led outside. A crowd gathered in the main square. The gallows were already set up, two ropes swaying in the wind. Evan Travis was there, smiling, savoring the victory. The judge, the sheriff, all the powerful men of the town. It was a spectacle, a warning. This is what happens to those who challenge power. They climbed the steps of the gallows. Anthony stumbled, supported by soldiers. Audrey beside him, head held high, eyes dry now. If they were going to die, they would die with dignity. The executioner adjusted the ropes. Around Audrey's neck, around Anthony's neck. The crowd murmured. Some women prayed. Children cried. "Any last words?" the judge asked, bored. Anthony opened his mouth. But before he could speak, a shout came from the back of the square. "Stop!" Everyone turned. A horse galloped down the main street, and mounted on it, black cassock fluttering, came Father Michael. Behind him, a man in a suit, top hat, leather briefcase, and behind those, a carriage with the state government seal. "Stop this execution immediately," the priest shouted, dismounting. Evan paled. "Father, you have no authority, but I do." The man in the suit stepped forward. "District Attorney Lucas Parsons, of the state of Georgia, and I bring here," he held up documents, "irrefutable proof that these two innocents are being executed for crimes they did not commit." And more, his eyes fixed on Evan. Proof of a criminal conspiracy involving murder, theft of public lands, bribery of officials, and much more. The silence in the square was absolute. Evan tried to run, but soldiers, real soldiers, sent from the capital, surrounded him. "Colonel Evan Travis," the DA declared, "you are under arrest for homicide, conspiracy, and treason." Evan was grabbed, handcuffed. He screamed, struggled, but it was no use. His power was over. The truth had won. The executioner took the ropes off Anthony and Audrey. They stepped down from the gallows, trembling, hardly believing. Audrey fell into Anthony's arms, and there, in the middle of the square, before everyone, she cried. Cried with relief, with pain, with gratitude. And Anthony held her, whispering in her ear, "It's over. You're free. You're safe." Father Michael approached, smiling through tears. The proof reached Atlanta last night. The DA read everything and came immediately. "Justice has been done. Thank you, Father." Anthony shook the old vicar's hand. "Thank you for keeping your promise." "It was God," the priest said simply, "and it was you. Your sacrifice saved this girl, and saved many others." Because it was true, with Evan and the corrupt colonels in prison, dozens of families would get their land back. Dozens of injustices would be corrected, and the name of Major August Miller would be cleared. Recognized as a hero, Audrey looked at Anthony, held his face between her hands. "You came for me." Her voice, still weak but clear, "Risk everything." "And I would do it again," he said, 1,000 times. I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything." Anthony smiled. "Just need to live, be free, be happy." "With you?" she asked shyly. His heart raced. "If you want." "I want to," Audrey whispered. And for the first time since she appeared at that gate, weeks ago, she smiled. A true smile, full of hope and promise of better days. And there, in the middle of the Oakville Square, while justice was finally done, two broken hearts began to heal. Together. Because sometimes, from the deepest pain, the truest love is born. And from the densest darkness shines the strongest light. And that light, the light of Audrey and Anthony, would never go out. 3 months passed since that day in the Oakville Square. 3 months since the truth came out, and justice, however late, was done. The trial of the corrupt colonels lasted weeks, but the result was unanimous. Evan Travis and his cronies were sentenced to life in prison. The stolen lands were returned to the rightful families, and Major August Miller's name was inscribed on a monument in the central square, recognized as a hero who gave his life for justice. Audrey was present at the monument's inauguration, standing, wearing a simple blue cotton dress that Anthony had bought for her in town. She placed flowers at the feet of the bronze statue of the father she never knew. Tears streamed silently down her face, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were of peace. Finally, her father could rest, and she could live. Anthony was beside her, hand firmly holding hers. His legs still hurt sometimes, a reminder of the bullet he had taken, but it was healing. The scars on the body and the soul took time to heal, but they were healing. Day after day, Willow Creek Farm was back in business. The hands who had fled in fear during the chaos returned. The cotton was being harvested, the cattle milked. Life slowly returned to normal. But it wasn't the same normal as before. It was better, because now the main house wasn't empty anymore. Audrey had moved in a week after the trial. Anthony offered the guest room, the same one where she had stayed that first night. But weeks passed, and that respectful distance between them began to shrink. Coffee taken together in the morning, long conversations at night, on the porch, watching the sunset dye the fields gold. Hands that touched accidentally and lingered before letting go. Audrey's voice returned completely. At first, words came with effort. Her throat hurt, as if she had to relearn how to speak. But Anthony had infinite patience, listened to every word as if it were gold. And gradually, she went back to speaking normally, to laughing, to singing softly while sewing on the porch. It was on a September night, with the full moon illuminating the yard and the scent of jasmine in the air, that everything changed between them. They were sitting on the porch, as always. Anthony smoked his pipe. Audrey embroidered a cloth. The silence between them was comfortable, familiar, until she spoke. "Anthony, can I ask you a question?" "Always." He put down the pipe, looked at her. "Do you still miss her, Helen?" The question took him by surprise. He stayed silent for a moment, thinking. "I do," he admitted. "Every day. She was the love of my life, my companion, my best friend. When she was gone, I thought I would never feel anything again." Audrey lowered her embroidery, eyes fixed on her own hands. "And now?" "Now." Anthony took a deep breath. "Now I understand that the heart doesn't have a limit on love. It can love again, differently, but equally deeply." He turned to her. "Audrey, I don't know exactly when it happened. If it was when you appeared at the gate, if it was when you smiled for the first time, if it was when I almost lost you. But I fell in love with you." Her green eyes filled with tears. "Anthony, I know," he continued. "I know I'm 28 years older. I know you've been through so much. Maybe need time, space." "I fell in love with you too," she interrupted, her voice firm now, clear. "Since the day you took me in when everyone else would have kicked me out. Since the day you believed in me when no one believed. Since the day you risked your life for me." She got up, went to him. "You saved me, Anthony, in every possible way." He got up too. They stood face to face, so close he could feel her breath. "So, would you stay with me here forever?" Audrey whispered. And then, slowly, she leaned in and kissed him. It was a soft kiss, hesitant at first. Two broken hearts meeting, testing, healing each other. And then it deepened, becoming something more. Promise, hope, true love born from the ashes of pain. When they separated, both were crying. but they were good tears. Tears of a new beginning. "Marry me," Anthony asked, holding her face in his hands. "Not because you need protection, not because you owe me anything, but because I love you, and I want to spend the rest of my life making you happy." "Yes," Audrey smiled through the tears. 1,000 times yes. The wedding happened a month later in the Fairview Chapel. It was simple, intimate. Father Michael performed the ceremony, smiling like a proud father. The farmhands were there, some neighbors, true friends. No pomp, no luxury, but there was love, true love, pure, the kind that withstood fire and came out stronger. Audrey wore a simple white dress, wildflowers in her hair. Anthony, dark suit, tie, eyes damp as he watched her walk to the altar. And when they exchanged vows, when the priest declared them husband and wife, the whole chapel applauded. Married life was a learning experience. Anthony, used to solitude, had to relearn sharing space, decisions, life. Audrey, used to being invisible, a voiceless maid, had to learn to be mistress of the house, a wife, an equal. But they learned together, with patience, with love. Audrey transformed the main house, planted flowers in the garden, roses, jasmine, chrysanthemums, sewed new curtains, painted walls, filled the empty rooms with life. The kitchen always smelled of fresh bread, coffee, corn cake, and at night, music. She had discovered Helen's old guitar in the attic and learned to play. Country tunes, love songs, melodies that made Anthony close his eyes and thank God for having been given a second chance. 6 months after the wedding, Audrey discovered she was pregnant. The news came on a March morning, after weeks of feeling nausea, fatigue. The doctor confirmed, a baby, their child. Anthony cried when she told him, cried like he hadn't cried since Helen's death. But they were tears of pure joy. At 48, he was going to be a father, something he and Helen never managed, despite trying for years. And now, with Audrey, the miracle was happening. "Will it be a boy or a girl?" he asked, caressing her still small belly. "I don't know," Audrey smiled. "But if it's a boy, I want to name him August, in honor of my father, August Vance." Anthony tested the name. "Perfect. And if it's a girl, Helen, in honor of your wife." He looked at her, surprised. "You would do that?" "Of course." Audrey took his hand. "She was important to you. She was part of who you are. I'm not jealous of that. I have gratitude. Because the love she taught you is the love you give me now." And in that moment, Anthony understood that he had found not just a new wife. He had found a soulmate. Someone who understood that love doesn't exclude, doesn't compete. Love multiplies. The following months were the happiest of Anthony's life. Seeing Audrey pregnant, radiant, preparing the nursery, embroidering tiny clothes. Seeing her belly grow, feeling the baby's kicks under the palm of his hand. It was magical. It was complete redemption. In December 1955, on a warm winter night in Georgia, Audrey went into labor. It was long, painful. Anthony stayed by her side the whole time, holding her hand, wiping her sweat, whispering encouragement. And when finally, at 6 in the morning, a baby's cry filled the house, Anthony felt his heart explode with love. "It's a boy," the midwife announced, showing the small, red, perfect baby. August Vance had arrived in the world, and with him, the certainty that the future would be different, better, full of hope. Audrey held her son in her arms, exhausted but radiant. "Look, Anthony, our son." Anthony touched the baby's little head with reverence. "Our miracle." Years passed. August grew strong, smart, with his mother's green eyes and his father's firm temperament. After him came 2 more, Helen, and 3 years later, Michael, baptized in honor of the priest who had saved their lives. Willow Creek Farm prospered. With the corrupt colonels in prison, new markets opened up. Anthony expanded cotton production, bought more cattle, built better houses for the workers. But more important than financial prosperity was the prosperity of the soul. The house was always full of laughter, children running, love. Audrey became a respected figure in the community. She taught reading classes to the workers' children, helped needy families, organized church festivals. The silent girl who had appeared at that gate, terrified and voiceless, had become a strong, respected, loved woman. And every night before sleeping, she held the silver locket she still kept, her father's locket, and gave thanks. Gave thanks for the suffering she had been through, because it had led her there, to Anthony, to the life she never imagined having. On a June day in 1970, 16 years after that meeting at the gate, Anthony and Audrey were sitting on the same porch, watching the sunset. His hair was white now, his body more stooped. She was in her 40s, a few wrinkles around her eyes, but still beautiful. Still those green eyes that bewitched him. "Did you know?" Audrey said, intertwining her fingers in his. "That night, when I appeared at the gate, I had no hope at all. I thought I was going to die. And then you opened that gate and saved my life." "You saved mine too," Anthony replied. "I was dead inside. You brought me back." "Then we're even," she smiled. "We are," he agreed. And then, looking at the golden fields under the setting sun, at the children playing in the yard, at the life they had built together, he whispered, "Thank you." "For what?" "For appearing at that gate, for trusting me, for loving me, for everything." Audrey rested her head on his shoulder. "Thank you, for believing, for fighting, for not giving up." And there they stayed as the sun went down and the stars began to appear. Two survivors, two warriors, two souls who found in each other what the whole world had denied: dignity, justice, true love. The story of Audrey and Anthony became a legend in the region. People told their children, their grandchildren. The story of the girl who appeared at the gate and the farmer who risked everything for love. Some said it was exaggerated, others that it was impossible. But those who knew them knew the truth. It was real. Every word, every sacrifice, every victory. And when, years later, Anthony finally rested, old, happy, surrounded by the family he loved, Audrey held his hand until the last breath and whispered, "I'll see you on the other side, my love." Because their love didn't end with death. It would continue, in the memory of their children, in the stories that would be told, in the legacy of courage, faith, and hope they left behind. The gate of Willow Creek Farm is still there today, and they say that, on full moon nights, if you pass by there, you can hear the echo of a promise made a long time ago. A promise that no matter how dark the night, there will always be someone willing to open the gate and let the light in. And if you are going through hard days, remember the story of Audrey and Anthony. Remember that redemption is possible, that justice can win, that true love exists, and that sometimes, in the darkest moment, all it takes is for someone to believe in you to change everything. If this story touched your heart, leave a like below. Subscribe to the channel for more moving stories from the Heartland. Share with someone who needs hope today. And tell me in the comments, what did you think of this story? Which part moved you the most? The next story is already waiting for you. Click here and discover another epic drama that will hook you from start to finish. Until next time, and remember, never give up, the light always conquers the darkness.